Okay, we'll call our September 17th meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Womack.
Here.
Councilman Miller.
Here.
Mayor Shelton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wheaton.
Here.
Councilman Walker.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those that wish to do so to stand for the invocation given tonight by Pastor Steve Taboo of the River Church, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
Lord, we thank you that you love us more than we deserve. We thank you for this utopia we have here in Cookeville and the awesome leadership we have. We just pray your wisdom tonight. Lord, you are a God of love, wisdom, compassion, mercy, truth, righteousness. And Lord, we just want to kind of lean into you tonight and ask you for your wisdom and the place that we need to be. Lord, show us. Help us to find unity as a church family, Lord, as the family of Cookeville. Lord, you love the whole family. Help us to know what that looks like and help us to walk in that. And bless our leaders, Lord. Bless our leaders, our police, our law enforcement, Lord, as they seek to live it out every day. Lord, it's not always easy. Bless our citizens, God, that we might love one another as you have loved us first. We pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3, consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes?
No changes.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Womack.
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
Aye.
Mayor Shelton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton.
Aye.
Councilman Walker.
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Under old business 5A, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on September 3rd, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Womack.
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
Aye.
Mayor Shelton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton.
Aye.
Councilman Walker.
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 5B, hold a public hearing and consider on second and final reading Ordinance 020815, amending Chapter 6 of Title 16 of the Cookeville Municipal Code. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, this ordinance replaces
Can you pull your mic up closer, please?
I'll start over. This ordinance replaces Section 1601 in its entirety and inserts a new Section 16601 entitled Obstruction of Public Streets, Alleys, and Sidewalks. The ordinance should be depicted on the screen. The purpose of the ordinance is to address public safety concerns relative to solicitations while within the public right-of-way. It was prepared by the city attorney and myself at the request of the council. There have been no changes since first reading. Several comments, both for and in opposition to the ordinance, have been received since first reading. Now, I've asked Police Chief Evans and Captain Harris from the Police Department to be here to speak on public safety concerns that could be attributed to solicitation within the public right-of-way. And so I'm going to ask them to come up and speak. But if you have any questions, I'll try to address them.
Thank you. Chief?
Mayor and Council, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. I'll make a few remarks and turn it over to the real police behind me here. It'll kind of clear things up for you. You know, kind of as we started down this path, as you know, of course, the police department, we didn't initiate this. I think that's important for everybody to know. This was initiated simply because we had members of our public you know, that had some great concerns, and that's what kind of started us down this path. However, you know, what we have seen in even the past few weeks is our calls for service continue to climb, and so I thought it important and prudent for me to speak on the matter from a public safety perspective. Even though, as we started this process, you know, it seemed like the environment and the issue kind of slowly migrated toward it being a perception of a social issue, not a public safety issue. And I think we must refocus our efforts and approach this problem from what it really is, and it is a public safety issue. I believe this ordinance will provide a real opportunity to mitigate risk for our citizens and to our community. And like any good statutory law, it seeks to modify behavior in a way that provides the most benefit for all parties involved. Like everyone else in the room, I think we all agree that being poor is certainly not a crime. But this ordinance is not about being poor or being disabled or drug addicted. It's about providing a safe environment for our citizens and our visitors to feel safe to drive, to walk, shop, play, and engage in any other lawful activity they choose to pursue in our city. Likewise, modifying behavior to the point where pedestrians are not placed themselves needlessly in danger by approaching motor vehicles at intersections or major thoroughfares benefits those vulnerable pedestrians as well as the motoring public. When I talk about public safety, and I talked about our calls for service earlier, I only need to point out we have increased our calls for service, this year to date, 169 calls for service involving safety issues and issues with people soliciting near the roadway. And that's a 37% increase this year from the same period last year. And what's really alarming for us as well is kind of the aggressive nature that some of these calls have turned out to be. And I'll just mention a few of those incidents, which is we've had people entering the roadway, we've had people standing in front of vehicles, we've had fireworks, we've had fire set, we've had people doing a variety of other activities that puts people in an unsafe environment and also violates the law. One concern that I heard during some of these conversations was about citations and costing people money. And I assure you, if you pass this ordinance in whatever capacity that you do, I assure you this is not going to be a ticket attack. Our officers show great restraint. They show great compassion and certainly great discretion on how we would enforce this law. And I think all of our officers are more interested in the positive outcome. And also believe to this ordinance that there is a latent function here, that I see that it does give us the opportunity to interact with people and act as a tool to truly assist those in need. Modifying behavior to reduce the number of pedestrians trying to interact with drivers and motor vehicles in high traffic areas should and can, in my belief, reduce the likelihood of traffic crashes in general, but specifically would reduce the likelihood of these pedestrians being struck by motor vehicles, which obviously could cause life-altering consequences for both parties. Having said that, I'm going to turn this over to Captain Harris, and I think he's got some specific information he would like to share with you.
Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing me to speak, and I appreciate the kind words by Chief Evans about me, but he taught me everything I know just about, so. I would just like to let people know my name's James Harris. I'm Division Commander over the Traffic Division for the Cookeville Police Department. Part of my duties is not just to enforce traffic laws, but it is to take in consideration of what we can do as a team to prevent future crashes, future problems and issues arriving on our highways. As I've been looking over this for the last few days, I just wanted to take a moment to share a few numbers with you as I looked into other departments and other street studies. And first of all, I want to say here in the U.S., we have more than about 38,000 people die each year in traffic crashes. About 4.4 million are severely injured. Now, when we talk about that, I want to talk specifically not just about pedestrian deaths. In 2017, the U.S. suffered 5,977 pedestrian deaths, with approximately 137,000 being severely injured by traffic crash. In 2018, that number rose to 6,283. And then in 2019, we rose to 6,590, which is the highest it's been in 30 years. The Tennessee Highway Patrol said in 2019 we had 752 fatalities here in the state of Tennessee. Approximately 100 of those were pedestrian deaths suffered by traffic crash again. One of the studies I looked to in Clark County, Nevada, was in over a 3-year study of 173 pedestrians that were killed in their city during to traffic crashes again. On a ratio of 100,000 people and citizens, about 1.4 of those were residents, 1.1 were visitors, but 30.7 were homeless people. It's my concern as I travel through the streets of Cookeville each day looking that when we have anyone, any folks, children, irregardless who it is, standing very close to the highway, that we take in consideration what we can do to make our streets safer for them. It's not pleasure for any of me or my guys, my team, to come out in the middle of the night to work a fatality, irregardless of who it is. So tonight I'm just here. I want to talk about, just for a brief second, some of the concerns that I have with what I can do to help reduce. We're on a trend of going up in numbers each year with pedestrian fatalities, and I want to do what I can do to help reduce that. Another thing concerned on a milder level, one of the number one causes right now for traffic crashes in the state of Tennessee, and especially in Cookeville, is distracted driving. As I've watched the exit ramps in some of the highly congested areas here in Cookeville, I've noticed that a lot of the folks are not watching where they're going, but looking at the signs, looking at the folks standing on the side of the road, which increases more of the rear bumper. It also hurts traffic flow when conversations and stuff are going on between folks standing on the roadway and the vehicles. And so my concerns are is what can I do as a traffic commander to keep the flow going on the highways, to reduce traffic crashes and certainly reduce pedestrian deaths. In my final notes, I just want to bring, and since 2015 here in Cookeville, city of Cookeville alone, we've had 79 crashes that involve pedestrians. Out of those 79 crashes, 70 suffered severe injuries, with 4 being fatalities. So I come to you tonight just keeping in mind a consideration as far as the Cookeville Traffic Division and my team. We want to do, it's not so much about traffic enforcement with us, it is traffic prevention, what we can do to reduce these numbers and try to get them falling instead of increasing each year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Captain Harris and Chief Evans. Is there a motion on O200815?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Okay, we will now hold the public hearing for this. At this time, I'll describe the points of order for our public hearing. You can step to the microphone on either side of the room, state your name and whether you live inside the city limits of Cookeville or outside the city limits of Cookeville. A statement of no more than 3 minutes may be made pertaining to this item. Once the timer sounds, you will need to wrap up your comments within 5 seconds. There will be no yielding of time to another person, and no one can speak twice. There will be no yelling, jeering, or clapping. Engaging in verbal attacks or comments intended to insult or slander any individual will not be tolerated. Any of the above shall be cause for termination of time privileges and expulsion from the auditorium. As you line up to speak, please observe the physical distancing markings on the floor, and please speak clearly into the microphone so everyone can hear, and there are wipes there that you can wipe off before you do. So anyone that would like to speak on this matter, please step up. And all right, we'll start over on the left.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are Stephen and Debbie Falcone. I live outside the city of Cookeville.
Can you speak a little closer to that?
How's that? There we go. Hi. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We live outside the city of Cookeville, and this is my wife, Debbie. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. When folks ask us where we're from, we say Cookeville, and they say, no, where are you from? We're escapees from Sacramento, California. We've been here just over a year, and we love it. We serve in our local church and our community at the polls. We can't say good enough things about the townsfolk, the town, and how we've been accepted. Thank you, Cookeville. A little history. We watched a slow digression from we'll work for food, etc., at the off-ramp. Never accepted work, by the way, and left behind bags of groceries given to them. From that to seeing piles up to 8 feet high of garbage at homeless camps, deemed at one time essential by the owners, and now just left behind. Please believe your eyes when you see pictures of these scenes. Only expand your view down the city and residential streets. It's not political, it's not propaganda, it's real. The results in Sacramento are homeless camps and public parks, bordering school playgrounds along the beautiful American River Parkway, and every freeway and city street in the region looks nearly like a third world country. This societal bane is like a mold. If it's ignored, it will take over. To allow our Cookeville hometown to become a haven to homeless and vagrants, for a haven it will become, cannot be encouraged or allowed. No one wants to visit or spend their tourist dollar at a place like that. I'm not comparing the issues in California to ours, only to point out it can happen here on a scale relative to our town. Solution. Based on public comments, Cookeville has the leadership in law enforcement, city administration, community volunteers, and resources to assist the individual. I was handed this just now on the way in, and they kind of expand a little bit better on what I've already read the city's trying to do. So the obvious solution is those who will accept social triage will become part of the community when they finish the rehab, job training, mental health treatment, or whatever ails them. The challenge for all y'all, for our leadership, is what to do about those who will not accept a hand up. And how do we find someone with no money? Jail's not the answer. How can we officially discourage the behavior? For it is a behavior and a mindset. By the way, there are signs in Nashville that say don't give money. But other than that, thank you, Council. Thank you, Cookeville.
Thank you, sir. Over here, yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. City Manager, thank you to the Council for providing this public hearing to speak on this very important issue. No one should have to
Please state your name and inside or outside, please.
No one should have to beg for money on the side of the road.
Please state your name and if you're inside the city or outside the city.
David Daniels, I live outside the city.
Thank you.
I was a 15-year codes enforcement officer for
Yes,
the City
sir.
of Cookeville.
Go right ahead.
No one should have to beg for money on the side of the road. It is dangerous and demeaning. The City of Cookeville has responded and addressed this very important social and safety issue with compassion. Thanks to the Mayor, City Council, and the City Manager, with the passing of the UCHR SAS pilot program, if you have a need, help is available, and you have an opportunity for a new start. But you have to make an effort, and you have to have the desire to challenge and change your lifestyle. I read a post recently on social media where a person was expressing their frustration, stating the panhandlers were taking the spots and the truly homeless have nowhere to go, and the truly homeless are having a hard time getting the things they need to survive. A friend shared with me that they have seen panhandlers walking from apartment complexes. Recently, it was said that some panhandlers were collecting $500 per day. For the professional or career panhandler, this is their chosen lifestyle and their way to continue this lifestyle. Look where panhandlers ply their trade. They leave behind their water bottles, coffee cups, fast food wrappers, and their trash. These are the main entrances to our city, our front doors, where the travelers and tourists may have their only encounter with our city, and you have one chance to make a good impression. Cookeville is the gateway to the Upper Cumberland. How do you want to say, welcome to Cookeville? The situation is not only at our interstate exits, but also Dogwood Park, Injure Sink Park, Cookeville City Cemetery, and any unsecure and uninhabited structure that may be found. More recently, I saw a panhandler on a bicycle approaching a woman at Jackson Plaza. Along with the SAS program, there are numerous avenues of assistance. The Highlands Residential Service provides safe and affordable housing. Habitat for Humanity has many programs. USDA Rural Development has a loan program that assists low and very low income applicants obtaining housing in eligible rural areas. And of course, the Cookeville Rescue Mission on the front lines in aiding the homeless and hungry. For those that are charitable and wish to contribute, give to the churches, give to the food pantries, and give to the Rescue Mission. Shop at the Habitat Restore. Donate to the Cookeville Human Fund, which operates as an arm of the Cookeville Police Department. You will then know your contributions are helping those in legitimate need. If you have a need, you must take the first step. You have a choice. Stop the spiral. These programs are put into place as a leg up, where aid is a stepping stone to self-sufficiency instead of a handout, where welfare is a wall of dependency.
Please wrap up, sir.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, and thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Kathleen Gilpatrick, and I live outside the city. I just wanted you to know that my first thought when I read this ordinance was, good. Now I don't have to worry about kids at intersections begging for money for their ball teams or cheer squads anymore. You know, as a mother, that always made me a nervous wreck. Safety first. But then I read Section 8, which says that if you are a 501c3 organization, you can beg for money with the approval of the city. So that was my first clue that maybe this is not about safety. As a former retail owner, I know that's displaying merchandise on a sidewalk. Now, displaying, not blocking, is a good marketing strategy. But as an empathetic human being, I see a panhandler asking for food or money at an intersection, and I am gutted by the thought of what this fellow human being has been through. I see him or her. As an intelligent thinking person, I know that I am looking into the face of homelessness in this community, but what I'm actually seeing is the face of addiction, PTSD from war or years of abuse, a gay person ostracized by their family, or the least among us. And in these perilous times, the numbers are only gonna grow. With so many one paycheck or one medical bill away from losing everything. There, by the grace of God, go I. We are in the middle of a global pandemic with no end in sight. Where is the safety issue when it comes for mandating masks? I mean, that just seems too political. During a pandemic when almost 200,000 Americans have perished and businesses and citizens are struggling to keep their head above water, why do we want to fine a local tax-paying retailer to lure its customers in or to indicate they're open for business? But let's come to the core of what's really this is about. You know, it's not neat and tidy for our precious community to display its homelessness for all to see. Let's just fine our struggling retailers, a homeless people for panhandling.
Please wrap up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Ed. I'm going to keep my last name private because that's my right under the Privacy Act for military veterans. I'm a disabled.
I'm sorry, can you speak a little closer to the mic? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
My name is Ed. I'm keeping my last name silent because of my Privacy Act as a military disabled veteran.
Are you inside or outside the city?
I'm inside the city and I'm housed by a government agency right now.
Okay, thank you.
But the fact is that the First Amendment of the United States Constitution says Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech. That means the U.S. Congress, state legislatures, county commissions, mayors, and city councils. This law, according to 2 United States Supreme Court hearings, has deemed that these laws are unconstitutional because they're content-based and they restrict locations as under that content base, and the fact that it's in this ruling, it says that regardless of the safety of a pedestrian or other people, that it is unconstitutional to enact this kind of ordinance or law by any means. It also says here, Justice Thomas, two-step test in town, Reed versus the town of Gilbert, seems to answer many of those questions, creating a definition for content-based laws which will likely result in many panhandling regulations being ruled content-based and therefore struck down under exacting requirements of strict scrutiny. Already, several panhandling regulations have been ruled as content-based and unconstitutional under the Reed framework. Now, Justice David Souter in 2018 made a similar ruling in the case of Thayer versus City of Worcester, where he struck down panhandling laws in the same way. It's irregardless of the safety of pedestrians or other people, it is unconstitutional to legislate this. I was a United States Marine. I had to know my Constitution so that I could defend it. And this wipes out everything that the Founding Fathers put down in the Bill of Rights. Everything. And you're going to tell these people out here that you're going to make this and enforce it? You're violating 2 Supreme Court orders that struck them all down. It's illegal. You cannot legislate this. It says no Congress. And that means federal, state, county commissions, or mayors and city councils cannot legislate this kind of a law or ordinance. That's all I have to say about it. And you people out here, you got to know that this is a pre-step to socialism and communism.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Councilman. My name is Tony Gammon. I'm a citizen of the city of Cookeville. I come to you to emphasize 3 points. One, as a representative of some of the shopping centers that are here in the city limits of Cookeville and outside. Secondly, as a small business owner here since 1977, a family business of New Day Services. And thirdly, as a citizen of the city of Cookeville and Putnam County. The issue that's taken place, and I want to give my support in passage of this ordinance, is to bring light to the issue not only on the public street, but what is taking place on our public streets is spilling over into the private sector, the private shopping centers. Someone just mentioned Jackson Plaza. That's one of our customers, and others. These individuals that are on the outside are spilling over, unfortunately, into the byways, the sidewalks, into the parking lots, into the shopping centers. I have a sign right here that you'll be seeing up that will be on some of the shopping centers in regards to trying to let people know that there's no loitering. There's another sign that will be going up in regards to, if you want to take a picture, about no trespassing, loitering, or soliciting on this property. There are property owners that have made a significant investment in Putnam County and the city of Cookeville, and they constantly get phone calls from individual store owners that are having panhandlers and people coming up to them not wanting food but wanting money. Secondly, as a business owner, our company takes care of cleaning up and sweeping up these properties late at night, and we also mow and take care of the landscape on a daily basis. My people are approached by individuals not wanting food, but wanting money. What for? Typically for drug abuse. We have tried to allow them and give them phone numbers to get help. They refuse that. Unfortunately, This continues, this behavior, and back in April, I have a police report to where I had an individual accost one of my employees. My employees deserve a safe environment, and they understand not to engage. And I do want to thank the City of Cookeville and the Sheriff's Department for helping us out with that situation, but it typically takes, we have an instance almost weekly. Thirdly, as a citizen of Putnam County, we want to make sure that we present the best foot forward to have individuals on the side of the interstate, at entrances of shopping centers, and then again, they spill over into the private property. I don't think that's what we want. I'm one of the most compassionate people, but when we try to help individuals and they refuse to help themselves, we must take a firm stand to make sure that we enact ordinances so that individuals understand when they come to Cookeville what a great city this is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, my name is Haley Smith, and I live within the city limits.
Haley Smith, inside the city, is that what you said? Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I want to address the statistic we were given earlier about pedestrian fatalities in the state of Tennessee. We were told that there were 100 fatalities last year. There have been over 2,000 fatalities from COVID-19 in our state this year alone. Our governor hasn't mandated a mask. Our county hasn't mandated a mask. Our city hasn't mandated a mask. So I don't think it's actually about fatalities. Second, I want to address the crime issue that's being associated with homelessness. Many national organizations that track homelessness in America have found that the homeless are more likely to be victims of a crime than perpetuators. So this bill is in effect, this ordinance, whatever terminology you want to use, is in effect harming those who are already the most vulnerable in our society. We have churches on every corner of this city. They're everywhere. Over 80% of the people in this room identify with one church or another. They're of the Christian faith. They follow the teachings of Jesus. He fed the homeless. He cured the sick. He gave to those who needed it. So when people come to us with a handout, it's our duty as human beings of any religion, but specifically those who follow Jesus, to give without question, without judgment. The only thing this bill protects, this ordinance protects, is our peace of mind, because we don't have to see what's actually happening in our town. We're living in a time when unemployment is at a historical high, where the average American is 2 paychecks away from being in a very similar situation to the people who stand asking for donations. Why are we even here discussing this? When you criminalize the homeless or people who are in need, you're just making it quiet. You're not making it better. And it only increases stigma. People who are already more likely to be victims of crime are now being told, are being shown as being someone worthy of scorn, of calling the cops on, because in the time of Black Lives Matter, we all know how well that goes. Last point, Cookeville's strong. We had tornadoes earlier this year that decimated our community. We had hundreds of people homeless, begging on Facebook, asking for anything and everything that could be given. This ordinance doesn't just include money, it includes donations of anything of value.
Thank you.
Food,
I
cold
appreciate
water on a hot day.
Thank you.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. Yes.
My name is Nathan Gentry.
So, can you speak in closer to the mic, please?
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Nathan Gentry. I live outside the Cookeville city limits, inside the All Good city limits. Spent most of my life growing up here in Cookeville. I traveled around the country, traveled around the world, got a chance to see other cultures, and the most wonderful moment in my life was driving back into Cookeville. It's where I grew up. It's where I learned compassion. And it's the only place I wanted to be while I was traveling away. I'd like to introduce for you the Putnam County Democratic Party's Resolution 2020-02, written by the Putnam County Democratic Party. Whereas the Putnam County Democratic Party stands by initiatives promoting equality, opportunity, and recognition of the rights of all people. Whereas the existing options and means offered by our community to assist the unhoused have been strained, limited, or challenged by conditions during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the number of unhoused members of our community has noticeably grown in recent months. Whereas poverty disproportionately affects American veterans, fostered youth, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people with disabilities, people who are neurologically divergent, gender and sexual minorities, people with addictions, and other marginalized people. Whereas we recognize the dangers posed to pedestrians by motorists in areas without adequate accessibility infrastructure, as well as the risk and cost presented to and by our neighbors serving as police officers due to unnecessary involvement in any scenario. And let me pause there and clarify, our police officers in Cookeville are wonderful people. They have the best interests at heart, and I know that they have the interest of our housed and unhoused community. Whereas we support the choice of those who elect to live free of worldly possessions and recognize them still as members of our community, and we support those who choose to act generously with direct and personal acts of generosity. And finally, whereas we hope to encourage our leaders and representatives to continue the pursuit of solutions to address community safety by introducing ideas which support rather than restrict the otherwise lawful actions and options of members of our community, we resolved by unanimous vote that we support the efforts this council has made, and I'm paraphrasing here, we support the efforts that this council has made with the SAS program, a fantastic program that has gotten off to a great start in the last 2 weeks. I'm so proud to be part of a community that has worked on that endeavor. I support the infrastructure changes that you all are working on to improve the safety, I'm wrapping up, improve the safety of our pedestrians. But we have no need of a fine.
Thank you.
For the poor.
Thank you. That's it.
Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Blair Dudley. I live inside the Cookeville city limits. First, I want to thank the council for your attention to the safety and our quality of life here in Cookeville. I do believe you're a very compassionate and caring group toward our citizens. I believe your actions typically show exactly that. I do want to say that this, I view this issue really from a libertarian point of view, and it's an issue of personal and economic freedom. In regard, I'm pretty much opposed to any government regulation when there's no actual crime or victim involved. And I'd also like to point out that ordinances such as this one are being knocked down in communities all across our nation, and that is probably going to pick up speed. So, in my opinion, then something does need to be passed, and I'm asking that you table this particular motion and do a little rework on it so that it might, in the event it is scrutinized, pass muster. So addressing this from a business standpoint, my business standpoint, I see this, some provisions in this ordinance is making things more difficult, especially for our downtown businesses. Under the last version I saw, which I believe is this one, the proposal ordinance places restrictions on such common means of promotion as sidewalk sales, sandwich boards, and it seems even like bistro tables outside of cafes and coffee shops. And right now, we should be making it much easier for our businesses to promote and not more difficult. And I would very much like to see this go in the opposite direction in support of our small businesses and the free advertising they can get if they happen to be located on a sidewalk. Secondly, this ordinance has been extended to include private properties with such things as gas pumps, ATMs, and drive-throughs. I ask that the council consider simply allowing solicitation on private property only with the express permission of property owners, instead of creating these specific rules which could be misconstrued, expanded, whatever, and leave that into the hands of the actual business owners of the private property. Seems simple to me. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Miranda Davis. I live within the city limits. This is a letter from Amos Powers, State Executive Committee man. I will be reading it on his behalf today. Dear council members, I am writing to convey to you my opposition to Ordinance 020-0815. We should not be a city that makes poverty a crime. We should be working to find ways to help all of our citizens. The ordinance you will be considering does not help those it targets. It does the complete opposite. It will also put more work on our already overworked police officers. The ordinance will keep people in poverty. We have to work to find other solutions to a complicated problem, solutions that help our people. I strongly encourage you to find a better solution and not pass the ordinance before you. I believe that a better solution can be found, one that other cities and communities across the nation could recreate. As it is said, there is only one Cookeville. Let us be the example to the world that in Cookeville, Tennessee, we help our people excel. Let us be the shining city on a hill. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Deanna Lack. I personally live outside city limits. However, I am here on behalf of my congregation. I'm the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cookeville, and many of our congregants are in city limits, and also our meeting place is also in city limits. The first and second principles of Unitarian Universalism are the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We are therefore compelled to submit the following. We commend the Council on its adaptation of an agreement with UCHRA and SAS to establish a pilot program to facilitate access to social services to individuals in need in Cookeville. We believe that this is the right approach to address the root problems of homelessness and poverty, to demonstrate that Cookeville is a caring community, to meet pleas for help with compassionate aid. This program has wide community support, and we believe that an additional ordinance to regulate panhandling activities is unnecessary. The pilot program should be allowed to proceed through its trial period and be evaluated on its efficacy in reducing panhandling before enacting another ordinance, particularly one which seeks to regulate the activity through punitive fines. In addition to addressing the problems of panhandling, of which panhandling is a symptom, the pilot program will allow data to be collected, and we believe that science should inform public policy. A 2019 study in Florida sought to address the knowledge gap between other social problems and panhandling, and the study was done in Orlando. It indicated that although most homeless people panhandle to survive in small degrees, in large degree those who were there consistently were about 15 to 20% of the homeless population that was estimated in the city. And of those 61 individuals, 82% were homeless, 45% had disabilities, 58% mental illness, and 92% a substance abuse disorder. Although many differences exist between Orlando and Cookeville, we can use the science to inform our policy making, and these data support a social service approach. Behaviors driven by mental illness and substance use disorders will not be deterred by punitive measures. The fifth principle of Unitarian Universalism invokes the right of conscience, and we believe this is a value shared by the Cookeville community, which is ranked the sixth freest in Tennessee. We believe that it is every individual's right to choose to meet the freely expressed need of another person in accordance with their own conscience. We are, however, sympathetic to the safety issues, and we support efforts to improve physical safety through sidewalks and physical infrastructure that would make the roadways safer for all members of the public. So with respect, our faith community recommends that the Cookeville City Council not pass this panhandling ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Samuel Dunn, and I live inside of the city limits of Cookeville. I work as a mechanical design engineer for the automotive and medical industries. In short, I design machines that make parts for your car. I was raised to embody Judeo-Christian values. These values were further developed through my experiences with the Boy Scouts of America. Why am I bringing this up? These values are my lens that I analyze my part in my community and the world. These are a guide used to evaluate how I play a part in making this world a better place. Under the findings of the ordinance, I found lots of language discussing safety of motorists, panhandlers, and pedestrians. This seems to be a guiding focus for this ordinance. I agree that the safety of everyone should be a primary focus of local government. My concern is how safety is pursued. Ticketing or fines are a powerful deterrent. However, they can only be effective if the subject has other options. Example, speeding fines can be effective because it is the motorist's choice to speed. The choice is important for ticketing to be effective. Concerning the incident involving Charles Barber, I fail to see how issuing him a fine would have improved or prevented his situation. He was homeless. A fine would just reduce his net worth. He would still be homeless. He would still be traveling and living on public right-of-ways. His situation would have placed himself and motorists in harm's way. If safety is of primary concern, should we not attempt to reduce the need of someone to panhandle, not just ticket them for the action? Instead of ticketing, I ask myself, how can we help panhandlers reach community resources, such as the Cookeville Homeless Shelter, the Substance Abuse Solutions Program, or a church in the local area focused on community outreach? Why can't we focus on why someone is panhandling instead of ticketing the problem? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, sir. My name is William Harper. I've lived here in Cookeville all my life. And as far I'm sure everybody spoke here today, that don't mean any harm to anybody. Certainly me, I would give anybody the shirt off my back. But a lot of these people I don't think want help. You know, Cookeville's a big town. We've got churches, we've got the mission down here to help these people that really want help. And I've talked to people at the churches. A lot of these people don't. They've chose this as a lifestyle. And I can give you an example. Like I said, I've lived here all my life over here. There is a couple here in town that pushes a little baby buggy around. They're a young couple in their early, probably 30s. They've got a home here off of Willow. They've had it all summer long. It's free. I knew their grandpa. It was given to them just for free. But they chose to get up all summer long and go out here and bum money on the sidewalks and hold that baby up. Now, to me, they're not trying to help themselves. They're just bumming money from people. And when you go down here and see them in the hotel, coming out of the hotel, or going into the swimming pool, which I've seen that. Now, that's conning. That's just taking people's money for nothing. They don't want a job. Now, I saw this happen. I also saw them over here at this new mall. I was in Academy Sports one night and come out. There was a guy out front of begging money. I just happened for some reason to go around through the back way because of the traffic, I guess. And I'd been in there probably for 45 minutes. When I come out, here's this guy pulling his clothes off, had the trunk of a car up, a pretty good looking car. And I should have got the license plate number, but at the time I didn't think of it. But he was throwing his clothes in there and his sign where he'd been begging money, and he was getting in his car going home, I guess. But now I've heard stories from everybody around Cookeville about this. There's a lot of this going on. A lot of people need help. I'm sure they do. You know, I don't want to down anybody. I grew up poor myself right here in town. Didn't have anything. But the people that need help, give it to them. You got churches to help them. You got the mission to help them. I've even offered to give them money or give them food, but they don't want it. They want money. I tried to give a little lady a meal over here at McDonald's one night. She wouldn't take it. She wanted money. I tried to give 2 guys a job here about 2 or 3 weeks ago down by the interstate. You know, help them out, $10 an hour. They stand and laugh at you. They're not going to work for $10 an hour when they can stand there and make $200 a day of bumming money. Now, to me, that's people that don't need help. You know, especially when they're sitting there playing games on their iPhones that probably cost $800, and I can't even hardly afford one myself. Where do they get those at? How do they pay those bills? How are they out here begging money and they got an $800 iPhone sitting playing games on it? Now, to me, that's not right. I say help the people that need the help, but check these people out. Some of them are cons. They really are. They can tell you stories that make you cry. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Wendy Will, and I am from outside the Cookeville city limits.
What is your name?
Wendy Will.
Thank you.
So I moved here from Miami 10 years ago, and I've seen my share of
Excuse me just a
homelessness.
minute. Shh. Let's be respectful of everyone speaking.
I've moved here-
Start the clock over, please. Go ahead, ma'am.
I've moved here from Miami 10 years ago, so I've seen my share of homelessness. Coming from a big city, every single highway, I'm going to take this for a second. Every single highway has homeless people living under it, and you learn their faces. You know when they're homeless, they're dirty, they want money or they want food, they accept anything you give them. It's become a trend here in Cookeville where it's always a different face. You know when they're homeless, you know when they need help, because they look, you can tell it in their face, they're broken down. These people, you see them, they're healthy, they have 2 healthy arms, they have 2 healthy legs. Most of them maybe might have mental health issues, and that's why they can't probably stand a job, they can't hold a job. But it's not a matter of politics, it's not a matter of religion. We do care. Myself and my daughter have actually made little goodie bags to try and help them, maybe feed them for a few minutes, for a few days. But I mean, I've seen veterans, and I've asked them, you know, hey, do you know that there are programs for veterans? And most of them do have mental health issues because they'll tell you, the water was poisoned and blah, blah, blah. And it's like they can't really get out of something that they've went through in their past that has led them to where they are. So maybe it's not a matter of, stopping it. Obviously, it does have to come to an end. It's a matter of safety. Pedophilia is huge up on the rise. I mean, I know that it's always happened, but it's a matter of, I even approached a couple of kids that were in front of Walmart a very cold winter day. I was concerned. I was like, where are you guys going to sleep tonight? Maybe you can go into the hospital emergency room. They can't kick you out of there. I mean, I had no choice because they said they didn't want to go into the mission and they didn't want to go into the church up the street because their only concern was that they were told that they were sticking medication in the water and in their food that was going to make them sexually unfunctional and infertile. So that's, I guess, one of the trends and one of the rumors that's going on among some of them. Definitely it's a mental health issue. But they're just getting younger and younger. You see them out there with clean clothes. If you're really, truly homeless, you're not going to have, I mean, I know that a lot of homeless people have dogs, and they look very healthy. You learn to kind of, I mean, and I'm not somebody that's, I'm not a professional at this, so, but you can definitely, you know when they're homeless. You go to Nashville, and you see real homeless people living under these bridges, all the time, and you pass by and you see the same faces every single time, you know that they don't come out of a house. You know that they're not freshly clothed. You see them pushing buggies, or you see them pushing carts. I don't know how it's going to get fixed, but I know that this can't continue because it's different faces all the time.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Steve Brown. I've lived in the city limits. I've lived here all my life. And I believe in helping people. Matter of fact, there's a lady that passes my house with a walker going to the store, and I'll take her. I go out, don't know her. Me and my wife went out and said, hey, we'll take you home. And I'll do that every time I see her. She needs help. It had a little cart in front of her, just barely can move. But extended family that has some of these issues, so I think I know what I'm talking about. I've served on Cookeville Housing Authority with the director, Dal Harris, in a few years past. Spoke to Dal the other day about this situation. He said he had tried to get people in public housing that was on the street, and they refuse it. We cannot change people's lifestyle. And I think sometimes we try to do that, especially me. But 98% of the people that are evicted from public housing pays no rent at all. And that's one thing that I think we forget. There's no need of anybody being homeless because they can get in public housing and pay zero rent. The taxpayers pays that, and the government. It's based on your income. If it's a waiting period, yeah, you got to go through the rescue mission or some other agency to get in, but you can. This is a safety issue, as a police officer has already said. And I had a former county manager from several years past back. I met with him, and he told me he had one deliberately jumped out in front of him, and he just accidentally got on his brakes before he hit him. The reason, I have no idea. But they're stopping, cars are stopping. Now they're walking around on the other side in front of the car to hand them money. That's very dangerous. And I have stopped by, seen them on the street, and asked them, hey, you want to work today? I've not had the first one that say, yes, I want to work. There's always a reason they can't. I've said, well, you may get a citation or a ticket. And they said, we don't care. We're not going to pay it anyway. That's the attitude that I have received from some. And I live I-40 off of Jefferson, pretty close to the interstate. Some of them are sleeping at the old Dairy Queen by the mall on Neal Street. I've seen them there myself early in the morning. I have actually had to call the police, get up of a morning, they'd been laying in the front yard asleep. And it's my opinion of what the council is trying to do is a very good thing to put guidelines and maybe restrictions on this to try to solve it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to start by apologizing for knocking the microphone down and interrupting.
No worries.
And thank you, technician, for helping me set it up. My name is Emily Amonette. I live outside of the city limits. I would like to speak today about community and compassion. So I work for a large doctor's office, private medical practice here in town. And on March 3rd, 2020, when the tornadoes came through that devastated our communities, my doctors stopped what they were doing, dropped everything, and went to help. That's what we're trained to do in the medical field, you see, is when those people come to us asking for help, we do so. It doesn't matter their religious affiliation, political stances, socioeconomic background, drug addictions, previous arrests, or any other circumstances. We help. That's what we're there to do. From that same event that devastated our community, I heard the phrase, Cookeville strong. I saw social media pages come up, community outreach unlike anything I had ever seen in my personal lifetime. It was beautiful, unconditional help. Nobody asked anybody for proof of residence. nobody got certain amounts of help based on, well, their house was only halfway destroyed and this other home was fully destroyed. All we did was come together as a community to listen to those who needed help. And when they did, they got it. What I'm asking the City Council to consider is the same sense of community in us being Cookeville strong. If there is a safety issue with panhandling in our town, we can acknowledge that, but I don't think that turning to people during a pandemic and a recession and finding them at their lowest point they are in their lives, having to ask for money, and turning to them with punishment. That's not Cookeville strong. I think Cookeville strong is listening to those who need help, and regardless of their background or affiliations in any way, shape, or form, to try to seek alternative options to help these people instead of punishing them for speaking up when they need help. They are humans too, and they are all part of our Cookeville strong community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Lori Benassi, and I'm out of the Cookeville city limit. I work at Firehouse Sub, which a lot of you know me from there. The owner there is Shatan Patel, and I wanted to say just a word about him. He has got a heart for this community. When there is fundraisers, different things that have to be done, he is always giving platters away freely. We are sending boxes to the nursing homes, taking care of them. So it's a good place. We are doing things over at Firehouse. I'm here to represent the homeless on our streets. They wander around our parking lot at Firehouse Sub. They hang around in the back. They are all over there because they come over from Walmart. It breaks my heart to see all these homeless people with no purpose in life. That could be one of us. They need our help. This is a Christian community, and it is our place to take care of hurting people. Jesus walked these streets, and he took care of people. All their needs he met, and then they were open to accept Christ into their lives because their needs were met. Recently, I had one boy come into Firehouse Sub. I saw him in the parking lot, and I brought him in. He was homeless. I asked him to come in. I fed him, and I met his need. I listened to him tell his story of what his life was all about. Then I prayed with him, and he accepted Jesus into his life. I was able to give him a Bible, materials that different churches supplied for me. I gave him some hope through Jesus. We have to reach the hopeless, the hurting, and the hungry. 2 years ago, I lost my oldest son, Chris, 22. He took his life over depression. I am sharing his life everywhere so that many people will accept Christ and not take their lives. The scripture, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He will give you that strength to reach out and help others. This is what it's all about, touching lives of people. My son will be a legend. Many will come to know Christ through his life. I had a suggestion. Maybe we could do a fundraiser and raise money to build another building for the homeless. We have Rescue Mission, we have Teen Challenge, and Genesis House. We need more. Life is too precious to let it slip away. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is James Lyle Alder. I've lived in Cookeville for 16 years. I want to push back on something a speaker said a turn or two ago. If you live in public housing, you do indeed have to pay rent. I work for Tennessee Tech University. I'm a shop foreman and facilities manager. To my mind, we are all here at the gorgeous Cookeville Performing Arts Center, some of you for the first time, I believe, because Mayor Shelton is attempting to pass a draconian ordinance designed to exacerbate and to intensify the plight of Cookeville's growing unhoused community in the midst of a global health pandemic that has left millions unemployed and uninsured through no fault of their own. But I suppose poverty isn't, a part of your aesthetic, I guess. The stated purpose of the ordinance is to, quote, protect the health, safety, welfare of the general public by imposing regulation against all unsafe panhandling. Yet, It offers nothing in the way of solutions meant to mitigate the circumstances that have driven so many of our neighbors to panhandle. Instead, it threatens inescapable debt peonage against Cookeville's most marginalized and underprivileged by slapping them with compounding fines. All of this punishment is rendered merely to discourage the victimless act of pleading for help from neighbors, help which we as Christians are compelled by pain of damnation and hellfire to give. I can't express how inhuman, offensive, and cruel I find this ordinance to be, or how heartless, vindictive, and godless the authors of it have proven themselves to be. Our local leaders are seeking to punish people for merely existing on the very margins that they themselves have created through incompetence and neglect. And that's why I'm speaking here today. We need every Cookevillian of conscience to speak out against this anti-poor ordinance, against this class violence. We will have to make them, these tertiary bureaucrats, understand that
Quit
they
personally
operate at our
attacking,
pleasure,
sir. If you have comments,
that they
that's fine,
operate
but
at
you
our
will not
pleasure and that we
personally
will-
attack this council.
Excuse me. That they do not
There
have
will not be personal attacks in this meeting. Is that
reclaiming my
clear?
time. Reclaiming my time, please.
I control the time. Thank you.
Thank you. That we are paying close attention to how they conduct themselves and that they have no mandate to operate without our approval. And that when they seek to attack the most vulnerable, that we will be there to throw our bodies before them and bear the brunt of their vicious assault. And finally, and this is very important, that we will be litigious, merciless, and incessant in our righteous response. Vote nay or God help you.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
Pull that up. My name's Luke Eldridge. I live inside the city limits. I actually work for, I've heard a lot of comments about SAS. We appreciate that. Let me give you a little background on me and then we'll get into this. But I've been in this field of helping individuals with mental illness. I used to work at Plateau Mental Health. I've worked at the Rescue Mission. I've worked at Upper Cumberland Family Justice Center with domestic violence and now at UCHRA with Substance Abuse Solutions. We have been at this for years trying to get people help who need it. I know there are a lot of people who need help and I know there are a lot of people who do not want it. And we cannot help those who do not want it. But with those that do, I think something like this will be able to, it's a good foot forward. It's a good foot forward to put something in place to be able to assist those who are needing help. And I know you guys, I understand your hearts. I understand the city of Cookeville's hearts when it comes to the police department is they don't want to arrest people, they want to help people. They don't want to do things. So I know you will make a great judgment with this city ordinance and with moving forward with this. But I've seen this for years of people needing help when they're on the street and those who want it and who don't. And I believe if we move forward with this, this will put us in a good place. You know, we as Christians, it talks about we have the law. We have the law of God. But there is also grace. And I know, without a shadow of a doubt, we'll be able to come to a good solution with all of this. And I believe this is a great first step, and I really appreciate it. And we appreciate your support and the city's support and being part of SAS and the city of Cookeville. Working with City of Cookeville, let me just give you some stats. We have assisted over 16 people in the last 2 weeks, 24/7. And we have had over 60 contacts with these individuals, whether getting into some treatment of some sort, whether getting the mental health they need, getting them into a good, stable place for right now. We are trying our best and we're willing to work in any way we can. So we really appreciate what you guys are trying to do. And it is not I don't believe this is something to attack panhandling. I do not believe this is something to attack an individual. I believe this comes back down to safety. I've actually had an individual I worked with that got hit by a car and died. A friend of mine who works with us, he actually years ago hit a homeless person that was walking across the street and died. That person did. So I understand the safety part and I understand it all, obviously, with all the experience we've had. But we are here and we appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I am Tina Sweat. I graduated dental school law. I've returned back here. And
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I'm Tina Sweat. I've returned here from Davidson, Tennessee after graduating law school.
Do you live inside the city?
For the Panhandling, I'm sorry, what?
Do you live inside the city?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you.
And for the Panhandling, I do believe, like, as far as the fees, I don't see how these people would be able to pay that. My compassion goes to them because I've lived that life with them. And in fact, I'm being persecuted right now. My mother is Mary, and I am that second one for Revelations. And they're, and so the police is not the very nicest people in the world, and they are very mean to us. And so I don't know how to help as much as just saying that. As in, these people, I've been hungry, I've been starved, I've been lied on, I've been put in jail of own lies many times. And indeed, my mother is Mary, and I can prove it to you. I look just like Jesus. So that means I am indeed sinless, and I am indeed not guilty of those crimes they keep putting me in there for. And I am being persecuted. And I did go to the hospital to try to get a CAT scan done of I was bleeding inside my skull, but the police officer instead picked me up and forced me into the hospital for unknown reasons. So I just said there's a lot more going on out there than you know, than you understand. Panhandling is nothing. Sometimes we just need society's help to help us get up. That's all.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, council and community. My name is Andrew. I live in Cookeville, Tennessee. I work at Tennessee Tech University, where I teach English. And when a church will allow me, I preach the gospel the best that I can. And I'm going to try to do that for a brief moment this evening. In Matthew 25, it said, I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you visited me. I'm hungry, and you fed me. But when? When did I see you, Lord? When you've done it to the least of these, you have done it unto me. And so these people that we're talking about as a them, every one of those thems is a Jesus in our midst. And you do it to them, you do it to our Savior. We keep talking tonight about the solution for them. I want to tell you about the solution for me. It says I am either a sheep or a goat, and that my salvation is contingent on how I treat that them. And I want, when I meet my Maker, to say, I gave you $1. I might give you $10. As a matter of fact, anybody need a handout right now? I got some cash in my pocket. I would give it to you because that is for my salvation. It's not to judge what you do with it. If you buy Pabst Blue Ribbon or a PBJ. But let me tell you, for 20 years, for me, it was Pabst Blue Ribbon. Let me tell you that I am ADHD, I have anxiety, and I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. But it's because of God that I'm sober 11 years and that I have a job and I can come and talk to you tonight. But Brother Womack, Brother Miller, Brother Shelton, Sister Wheaton, and Brother Eric, please don't pass this ordinance. Not for the litigious or the marketplace ideas that have been presented so compassionately, not because of what Brother Luke said, because his program is fantastic, but do it because your Lord has commanded you and that your eternal fate depends on how you act when Jesus meets you with a sign. He didn't say he would smell good. He didn't say he wouldn't urinate upon himself. He didn't say that he wouldn't be addicted or in great need. He said, if I am hungry, give me something to eat. And I'm sorry if you're offended by poverty, but let us look at the causes of poverty in our society, which are greed and selfishness. Jeff Bezos makes as much as in a minute as I make in a year, and that is a sin against everything that we can unite around. And I'm grateful that people have brought up the mask problem and other issues of safety, but that ordinance was not written for pedestrian safety, as was already stated. It was written to marginalize the least of these who are Jesus. They are Jesus. Do what Jesus wants, and we will be together again.
Thank you.
On high. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Ryan Steele. I live outside the city limits. I've been really in objection to this ordinance since it since I first heard about it. Yesterday, though, I was able to have a conversation with Luke, who you just heard a couple of times ago with the SAS, and he really convinced me of just like a whole lot of things about the way that y'all as the city council and also law enforcement here in town, what the goals are for the thing, and that law enforcement isn't interested in making a arrest or writing these fines or anything like that. And almost I was just entirely convinced, but in the end, it still doesn't make any sense to me. As almost everyone who has been in favor of the ordinance has said so far, there's a serious element of mental illness, and that mental illness disproportionately affecting the unhoused. And I don't understand how we could respond to this with an ordinance with a fine. I do respect, as I mentioned, SAS and all of the things that are moving forward in that way. But it doesn't make any sense to me. What Andy says makes sense to me, for us to reach out and build up the SAS system, bring more. I do believe that fellow was incorrect. We don't have any free housing in this city that is not coming with a whole lot of strings attached. And I would love to see transitional housing. There are alternatives to the panhandling ordinance. I mean, this could just be any of us. I mean, and not a couple of paychecks away, but driving down the interstate, we break down under the great big white cross up there. We walk to the gas station, and according to this ordinance, us asking for dollars to get down the road or to make a phone call or anything like that, that's illegal. So I can't be convinced, because this stands in opposition, I think, to the actual law. I think that the city of Cookeville will quickly face litigation against this ordinance if it passes. And as Blair said before, I think the city of Cookeville is going to lose because paragraphs 8, paragraph 5, and paragraph 11 are all really broad and vague and can't be defended, or at least they keep failing in other places. So I think that there's a way forward here, but I don't understand how this fine could ever do it, or could ever represent Cookeville the kind of way that we want. We're concerned with the way that we appear to the passersby, appearing stingy and
Thank
treating
you.
the poor isn't the way.
Thank you.
very much.
Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. I'm Melissa Bean. I live outside the city limits. So I just wanted to kind of feed a little bit on to what Blair had said before. I kind of represent three populations: Libertarian, the Unitarian Universalist, and an avid activist in this community. So on a libertarian stance, we just want you to understand that, there are other alternatives out there. There are other cities that have tried this and have failed. There are other alternatives that cities are trying and they've worked. There's a permit system that they can do. There's you can give free permits. You can, and if someone acts out, if someone is violent, if someone, a panhandler is, just being a bad actor, just revoke that permit. That's very much a less nuclear option than fining them. There's, we can just mark dangerous intersections. It doesn't have to be citywide. It can just be the most dangerous intersections. We're just asking you to look at other alternatives before you take this nuclear option of passing this ordinance. As a Unitarian Universalist, I do believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. I keep extra money in my car. Anytime I pass anybody, if I see them that they're out on the side of the road, I'm going to give them money. And when I run out of money, I go get some more money just so I can have that cash in there. So, a question that I have there is, if you're going to fine them, are you going to fine me for contributing? How are you going to monitor that? How are you going to police that? And being someone that does a lot of outreach in this community with the LGBT community, I want to make you understand that that's a community that's disproportionately affected with homelessness. I've seen firsthand how wonderful this community is. I've seen firsthand how wonderful this whole entire area has pulled together to help my community and to be better and to do better. And I just feel like when it comes to this ordinance, we need to be better and we need to do better because we are better. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. I'm Ted Woods. I live inside the city limits. My family has been in this area for nearly 100 years now. My granddad served as an elder at Sycamore Church of Christ, and my grandmother worked at the old Dipsy Doodle long before it was on 70. I love Cookeville. It is part of who I am. And part of what Cookeville is painted on every other building right now. We're Cookeville strong. Well, Cookeville is strong because Cookeville cares. Just like my grandfather serving in the church and my grandmother serving tables, we have a heart of service. And I know this ordinance is your diligence. It is a job. It is a hard job. It is a hard thing to deal with. But this ordinance goes so far against everything that our community showed what we were in March, when half of 70 blew away and there were so many volunteers that you had to bust them there. That's who we are. We're not a community that goes to the lowest of us and exacts fines on them for existing, for trying to get anywhere. We've talked about the Constitution tonight. We've talked about rights. And as Ryan said, after Reeve versus the town of Gilbert, this ordinance is broad. I would just plead with you to relook at this. Don't say no to the idea or the hard work that went into it, but just rework and make this something that is a better representation of who I know Cookeville is. Not a place that will kick a man when he's down, but will make sure that our hearts and our souls are shown for the love and kindness that our Lord and Savior told us to do. If you loved your community, if you loved the people in it, and if you loved your God, this ordinance as it stands cannot be passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Anna Richmond. I'm a homeowner within the city limits. And I want to start by saying something that one of my favorite people say. Many of y'all know Shaquana Wester. She works for Highlands Residential and does her Kiwanis coat drive every year. She says, do what your heart tells you to do, okay? What people do with that, that's their business, okay? But do what your heart tells you to do. So I want to share that message with everyone today. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in social work. I've worked in social services for 20 years now. Can't believe it's been that long. My concern with this ordinance is two issues. First, it's the First Amendment, or our First Amendment, right? Our issue of free speech. Goodness. The second is that as this ordinance leads to criminalizing the poor, which are most vulnerable in our community. Overall, I'd like to rework this ordinance. This is an infrastructure issue. We need to work on our city streets, our sidewalks, making our community walkable and accessible to all people with all modes of transportation, particularly bicycles, those sort of things. If we started there, I think we'd reduce the need for this ordinance. So when municipalities regulate panhandling, which is a form of free speech, our First Amendment rights become an issue. This ordinance regulating panhandling is unconstitutionally vague and overbroad. It's depriving panhandlers of their free speech rights and raises serious due process concerns by targeting the homeless. Supporters of this regulation contend it's a safety measure. It's designed to protect people from accidents, harassment, and crimes. We already have laws in place to protect people from being in intersections. If they're aggressive or violent or during panhandling, that's a robbery. There are already laws in place for those sort of things. If all or most of the panhandling is passive, such as holding a cup or a sign, then my belief is that this ordinance is nothing more than shaming part of our community that is most at need, and it moves them back into the shadows so that our community appears to be welcoming, right? It appears as though we don't have a homeless problem, but lessened visibility doesn't mean there's a lessened need. This ordinance makes panhandling an offense punishable by citation and civil fines of $10, $25, and $50. A civil fine is sought to compensate the city for harm done to it. What harm does panhandling do to the city? We must address the underlying needs of homeless population. In my work, I've seen 40% of foster youth who exit custody become homeless. These are some of our kids that are in our streets right now that have turned into adults and are begging for help. Also, 1 in 3 teens who are lured into sex trafficking within 48 hours of running away from home. These are people that need our help so they don't become statistics, okay? The good news is that we have a great start. We have our SAS program. In just 2 weeks, we've heard of what an impact in our community that program has made. I beg you to give time for that program to work and either table or vote no on this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Billy George. I do live in the city limits. First, I'd like to appreciate those of you who have been attentive and not on your phones during this. Proverbs 17:17 says, "A friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity." Would you do this or action towards your brother? I will address something that someone said earlier. Healthy looking does not equate the lack of need. We do not know what has happened the time prior to putting them into this situation. Luke 6 says, "Give and it will be given back to you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over." In context, I have sent each of the city council members as well as City Manager Mills an email that kind of addresses some of what I'm talking today. In the purpose, it talks about panhandling and other activities. Those other activities are unclear, specifically to certain demographics within city limits, specific placement and such. It also is concerned about distractions for right-of-ways, pedestrians, as well as drivers. Does this ordinance also limit retractions about those who are on Jefferson, having megaphones, addressing things, causing distractions while people are driving, or other situations in protesting of other First Amendment rights in that same deal? I recognize that this is specifically geared towards panhandling or solicitation, but what about those businesses like Liberty Tax and such that might have an individual standing on the sidewalk trying to draw attention to their own business? You putting this ordinance in the wording that it is restricts and limits access to that particular business or what that business has possibility to do, and therefore pay and participate in taxes within city activities. Also, I think that the wording does lead, as others have said, the city itself to particular lawsuits for the vagueness, openness on interpretation for the officers or those who are writing citations specifically. I also urge the City Council, of those of you that do have social media, to actually make it possible for people to have concerns and address issues of dissent. We have 3 minutes to dissent upon anything that is stated from your own social media platform, from an elected position in which we collectively, as a city, have addressed and voted you to be in. So I ask that the city please postpone for further wording, reclarification of this ordinance.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, my name is Allie, and I live in the city limits.
Tell me, can you say your name again, please?
My name is Allie, and I live in the city limits.
Thank you.
An ordinance that gives monetary punishment to keep people off the streets is a reactive response. You cannot just assume that because our city has a rescue mission that houseless people are given the chance to redeem themselves. A private entity may not be held accountable, and a religion-based program will not work for everyone. I commend you on the UCHRA program, but with no public, unbiased solution, how do you know that the rescue mission is doing right by these people? Many have heard otherwise. Are you just passing them along to the next person, or do you actually want to help them? We need to do more. The rise in houselessness and panhandling is clearly a result of the pandemic, something that is happening across the country, even the world. If your first reaction was to punish these people, then you are not concerned about their well-being, but more concerned about the inconvenience of seeing poverty. If each of you on the council want to show us that this ordinance is not about tucking away poverty, then you need to vote no and reconvene with Housing Solutions. I'm just a regular citizen, so I don't know the perfect solution, but I do know right from wrong. I hope my statements have compelled you to make the right decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chad Gilbert, I live in the city of Cookeville. You know, listen, y'all are in a tough spot. I appreciate
Can you
y'all doing
pull the
this.
mic up so it hears you a little bit? Thank you.
You hear me now?
Yes.
You're in a tough spot. I appreciate y'all considering a decision like this. Just from a pragmatic standpoint, I'm a business owner. It's not the look that attracts what we think is an environment to Cookeville conducive to conduct business. Just personally, everyone that I've even gotten within arm's distance of, I've offered a job to. They don't take it. They're the ones I've engaged with, which are several, they're everywhere. They're cognitive. They seem to be calculated. They know what they're doing. If they're not out there begging, they're taking rotation, hanging out under the bridge on their cell phone, and then they swap out with the next guy. You know, I've hee-hawed with a few of y'all and sent pictures of it. You know, the mess and the trash they leave everywhere. That's not helping anybody. I support anything that discourages this, because anytime you don't discourage it, you're by default encouraging it, and it just brings more of that element, and we don't need it. I even offered one guy, I said, hey, if you'll just I'm going in here to eat, if you'll pick up the cigarette butts around you here, I'll come out and pay you for that. I'll take the bucket of trash with me. He wasn't interested. I've had zero engagement with anybody who has had a spirit or a willingness to seem to not be calculated. They seem to be making enough money to keep them persuaded to stay there rather than, you know, pick up some sort of, I don't know, take an action and make it better. So anyway, you're in a tough spot. I support what you're doing, and anything we can to control it, clean it up, I'm in favor of.
Thank you. Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Carol Fleetwood, outside. Seems to me that there are two camps here. One that says there's a problem whereby the people don't want to help themselves, and others that say because of a Christian and God-fearing person, we need to help them. There is a dilemma here. It's not only here in Cookeville, it's all over this country. What do you do with it? My concern with the fine is that they're going to get in a loop of going to jail. Now, have you thought through what these multiple fines would do to a person? Are they going to jail? I'm working with a young man, well, he's 50, who's been in 4 times incarcerated, and I'm trying to help him get back on his feet. I've taken him to the probation appointments, and let me tell you, they give him those drug tests, and they are just ready to slap those cuffs right on him again. Once you have a conviction, once you're in the system, in the jail, and you come back on the streets, they don't look at you the same way. They want you back in there. And they're making money from you. They're making money every time you go in jail. And if you have an addiction problem, if you have a mental health problem, you're not getting the proper attention you need when you're in jail. And I'm afraid that these people will be lost in the cracks. They're just going to be in the revolving door of in and out of jail. So consider the fine and what it's going to do. And I think several people were right when they say this should be postponed and reworded. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council during this public hearing?
Can I say one thing in regard to that lady just spoke? The city can't pass a law that has a jail sentence involved at all. It's a civil penalty. It is not a criminal record. It's not a criminal violation. It's a civil penalty, and the city cannot impose a jail sentence on anything that the council passes. So if there's a misconception about that, I just didn't want to clear that up.
Thank you. All right, that will close the public hearing portion of the meeting. The council will take a 15-minute break, and then we'll start again at 7:20. second. Let everyone get seated. All right. Taking this matter back up, we have finished the public hearing portion. Council, do you have any comments? Councilman Womack?
Yes. 2 weeks ago, I made a motion to table the motion until we had a public hearing. We've now had a public hearing, and it's been useful. I want to thank everyone who was here and gave their thoughts. I don't know how many people talked, but it was a lot. And it looked to me like it's a thing between First Amendment rights and public safety. That's the two things. People out on the street can be hit by a car, and versus the fact that people have to have the right to ask for money as a First Amendment right. So that's the way I see it right now. That's what's been clarified by this public hearing.
Councilman Miller?
Yes, I kind of want to reiterate what Dr. Womack said. These ordinances really need to strictly focus on public safety, and there have been a lot of constituents and people bring up some First Amendment suppression with this ordinance, and I really have some concerns about that. But I've personally seen panhandlers walk out in the road and have created some very, very difficult safety issues. So that's just my thought on it.
Thank you. Councilman Walker?
First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's nice to see this many people try to get involved in the community and what we do. And I think that's very important for our community. It helps the leaders judge what's going on and understand what the community needs are. We've gotten a lot of emails and phone conversations, many long phone conversations on this issue. I certainly think that we need to have an ordinance that addresses this issue and from a pedestrian safety issue. And one thing I want everyone to understand tonight is we're not saying like panhandling is not okay. We're saying it's not okay in certain places that it's unsafe, or in certain places that it creates a captive audience where somebody else's rights are being infringed upon. And I think that's something important to understand. So, you're still free to have your speech. You're still free to do those things, but you don't need to do it somewhere that it's unsafe. With that being said, I want to thank those individuals who came and spoke tonight, who have reached out to people who are homeless and people who are in need and helped them. That's what our community is built on, and that's what is truly going to help this problem in the long term. But I do think that we need to address this issue of these unsafe areas and ways to do that at our intersections and our major streets and move that to a place that is safer. And so, with that being said,
Vice Mayor, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone. Like everyone has said up here, it's encouraging to see this many people getting involved in city government. This is how it works. I do also agree that there does need to be something done about the public safety issue that we have been seeing in our community. And the fact that we've got the contract with the SAS, which you're going to hear me talk about how excited and proud I am of that. I feel like that's a whole other different area that we are putting a lot of effort into, and this is a separate issue. So I do think we need to continue to discuss it. I do want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We heard you.
Yeah, I do appreciate everyone coming out tonight. This was not a problem the council sought to fix. However, it has become an obligation due to citizen complaints to at least attempt to find a solution. For those individuals or groups that are suggesting that anyone in this community is attempting to deny anyone the help or services they need are extremely uninformed and not in touch with the problem. I submit that the exact opposite is true and that our community on many levels stands ready to assist those in need. I believe that point has been proven time and time again. Churches, social services, mental health services, nonprofits, the rescue mission, benevolent individuals, businesses, city government are all willing and ready to assist those truly in need. Many of our community members and even our own police officers have on many occasions paid for motel rooms, meals, clothing, and essentials in an effort to help families and individuals in need. One of our officers even has started his own human fund in an effort to provide a little humanity to the community issue. We're dealing with two different issues that have some overlap. The council took emphatic, strong, and compassionate action last meeting and hired 24/7 on-call social worker services through the SAS program to directly and immediately help those with the homeless issue. And I think we got the report tonight, and that has had some great success in the first 2 weeks. I also know that our citizens are concerned about the safety and rising level of solicitation and panhandling in our city. They've expressed their concerns to me personally, to law enforcement and city leaders, as well as other members of the council. And they're simply asking for us to come together as a community to work toward a solution for this growing and dangerous community problem. I submit the problem that we're discussing here tonight is not always the problem of homelessness and mental health and even poverty, as we've all mentioned, and those are definitely issues. We're also discussing potential fraud being committed by organized and sometimes aggressive panhandlers that are creating a public safety issue and diverting money away from those that are truly in need. Everyone does have rights. However, those rights should not infringe upon someone else's right to feel safe and secure in our city. We must remember we have an obligation to keep our city and our citizens safe. These calls, like I said, I've received over 60 calls and messages from concerned citizens. A couple of them that stood out, personally had, this lady said, I personally had 2 separate occasions where the person has crossed right in front of me at a super slow pace without a care in the world, and right before their foot hit the curb, they decided to take a step out into the road and kind of taunt me as if they're going to walk back to the other side. I was scared. And I've got several cases like that, but I think the best way to look at why this is a safety issue is at the police report that was alluded to earlier. So the police report for the past 5 months, these are the call-outs. Standing in the roadway 4 times, step out in the road to swerve 2 times, aggressive beating on vehicle window, tried to get into the car, knocking on people's car windows, threw a rock at the vehicle, approached the car and tried to sell pot, dog jumping on car with subject banging on window asking for money, subject asking for money and then threw chair into the roadway, subject threatened her, subject asked a citizen if wanted to buy a gun from him, subject yelling, harassing customers, approached vehicle asking where to buy drugs, when told to get away from car, yelled and cursed, standing in the middle of the road, walking out in the road 3 times, fight over whose corner it is, dropped pants and started urinating, jumping in front of cars, falling into traffic, asking for money, then threatened complainant, standing in the road, giving the finger to passerbyers, shooting fireworks under the overpass. 2 males stepped into road in front of semis at the exit ramp, threw a drink on a vehicle as she passed, approached car and put head in asking for money. So to say that's not a safety issue is absolutely incorrect. It is a safety issue, the safety of our citizens in Cookeville, drivers, and those that are soliciting. Also appreciate all of you who share Bible verses tonight, and I think context is important to our understanding of God's Word and His ways. So I also want to share some verses. The Bible is very clear that God expects people to take personal responsibility for their own livelihood. When you study the Gospels, Jesus had compassion on the unable, not the unwilling. 2 Thessalonians 3, even while we were with you, we gave you this command, those unwilling to work will not get to eat, yet we hear that some of you are living idle lives, refusing to work and meddling in other people's business. We command such people and urge them in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and work to earn their own living. In Matthew 25, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance, but from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. And in 1 Timothy, but if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So I would just say we do have compassion. We are trying to find a solution. We have done that with this SAS program, and we're anxious to see how it works along with something for safety in our community. So we have a motion, and we have a second on the table on this.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to postpone this to October 15th due to the agenda items we've got coming up at the first meeting of the next month. We're going to have a busy meeting and just to get the scheduling right on this. But
Okay,
I
so,
think
we have a motion and a second on the original, so now you're amending it to postpone it to October 15th, is that correct?
yes, sir. I'm motioning to postpone this till October 15th with no public hearing, since we've
Correct.
already had that tonight.
Again, I'm not trying, so we motioned in second, so your motion now is to amend the original motion to postpone to October 15th, to take this up with no public hearing at that point.
That's correct.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the amendment? All right, a roll call.
I'd like some
I'm sorry,
discussion
go
on
ahead.
that, just so
Okay.
everybody understands. I think that, taking a look at this and hearing everybody's input, I for one want to see an ordinance get passed and it be correct. I think many others on the council do as well. But we do need to get it right. We've heard everyone's input. I think taking some time to evaluate that and go back and make sure that we've got the correct ordinance for our city is the most important thing. We are a city that invokes a good community. Our police officers, I can't say enough about them, that we have a community police force. Our officers live in our city. Their intentions are much like our own. And so, making sure that we pass an ordinance and that we do that and we do it the right way, that it meets the objectives is a very important thing. And hopefully we can meet very soon and get a work session on that. But moving forward,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Any other discussions or questions? Yes, Councilman Miller.
Yeah, I'm a former law enforcement officer, and I want to make sure that we protect our police officers with any ordinance that we pass. I don't want to create a civil liability issue with our law enforcement officers. I want to get something passed so we can protect our citizens, but I also do not want to put that liability on our police officers.
All right. Any other comments? All right, roll call, please.
Councilman Walmack,
Yes.
Councilman Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Shelton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton,
Aye.
Councilman Walker.
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Under new business, 7A, consider resolution R200918, adopting an eligibility policy for the city health insurance plan. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, I'm requesting your approval of an updated eligibility policy for the city's health insurance plan, which is a single employer self-insured plan. The eligibility policy documents the groups of eligible members that may participate in the insurance plan. Our current eligibility policy was established in 2003. The proposed policy is depicted on the screen. The updates include reflecting the benefit changes approved for employees hired after July 1st, 2017, which ceases coverage at Medicare age. The policy is also updated to address some Affordable Care Act requirements, including the provision where dependents are eligible to the age of 26. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, but I would recommend for your approval of the resolution.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Walmack,
Yes.
Councilman Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Shelton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton,
Aye.
Councilman Walker.
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7B, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineering contract for the design and widening of 10th Street from Fisk Road to Old Kentucky Road for the Public Works Department. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, we have negotiated a not-to-exceed contract with Clinton Engineering to design the widening of East 10th Street from Fisk Road to Old Kentucky Road. This will include widening the road to 5 11-foot lanes, curb and gutter, and sidewalk on both sides, as well as utility improvements and relocation. The total cost for the base scope of work is $214,000 with a $5,000 option if we would like them to stake out the right-of-way takings. I would request your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just
Yes.
like to say that.
Yes, Councilman Walker.
I'm excited to see our transportation issues moving forward. It's a very concerning thing, when we got into this, that to see our city grow and for us to work with that and develop a city and infrastructure that matches that growth, I think is very important. Thank you.
To that point, Cedar Street was started today as well. So
Yes.
That's another project like that. Okay. Very good. Any other comments? All right, roll call.
Councilman Womack?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton?
Aye.
Councilman Walker?
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7C, consider approval to purchase one traffic signal bucket truck utilizing the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for Public Works. Greg Brown.
Mayor and council, we'd like to purchase this bucket truck through the Sourcewell contract with VersaLift. The base price for the truck we would like to purchase is $128,438. We would like to add an option for the truck to be four-wheel drive, an additional $4,054 for a total of $132,492. And this is a budgeted item. I request your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Womack?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton?
Aye.
Councilman Walker?
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7D, consider resolution R200917 to acquire by donation, negotiation, or eminent domain, if necessary, certain land rights relating to the South Jefferson Avenue widening project. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, I'm seeking approval for resolution R20-09-17, which authorizes city manager and city attorney, if necessary, to proceed with the acquisition of property and by donation, negotiations, or eminent domain if necessary. This is right-of-ways on the South Jefferson widening project that we need to obtain. I've included a copy of the resolution and a copy of the property in question and a map, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Womack?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton?
Aye.
Councilman Walker?
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7E, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineering proposal for the Double Springs separation design, water quality. Ronnie Kelly.
I'm seeking authorization for the city manager to enter into an engineering proposal with Clinton Engineering. This will develop how we're going to separate the system we acquired recently from the Double Springs Utility District by putting some master meters and separating those existing facilities. We've negotiated a price of $26,500 and would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Womack?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton?
Aye.
Councilman Walker?
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7F, consider rejecting all bids received for water meters, water quality control. Ronnie Kelly.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we're recommending to reject all bids. We need to revise specifications and rebid.
Thank you. Is there a motion to reject all bids?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Womack?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton?
Aye.
Councilman Walker?
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
7G, consider authorizing the city manager enter into a contract with the Office of Criminal Justice Programs for a CESF JAG grant award for the police department. Chief Evans.
Mayor and council, as stated, this is an Office of Criminal Justice Program grant in the amount of $10,000. The grant period is from July the 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. It is a coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant. It funds some equipment for the department to keep us safe during the coronavirus. There is no match, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Womack?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wheaton?
Aye.
Councilman Walker?
Aye.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda portion of the meeting. We have time at the end. Anyone like to address the council on non-agenda items? Do we have anyone? All right. Council members, anybody have anything to say?
Just like to thank everybody who stuck around tonight. Watch the rest of our meeting.
All right. We are adjourned.